A fist flew through the air and hit the chest of a guard at a tomb. The people at Arlington stopped, their breath caught in their throats. He had a gold medal around his neck and was a kung fu champion. He smiled because he thought it would be an easy win and a big deal for his fans. He thought the guard was just a statue in a nice outfit that had been taught to march but not to fight. But what he didn't know, and what no one else in that astonished, mumbling crowd could have predicted, was that the tomb guards standing motionless in front of him had fought enemies in combat zones that most people only see in movies. In one rapid, deadly action, the guard was poised to teach a lesson that would be heard all across the world. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and switch on notifications. Also, let us know in the comments where you are watching this from. Help us keep the memory of honor, courage, and sacrifice alive if you think they still matter. The sun was low in the sky over Arlington National Cemetery, and the white headstones that lined the path seemed like calm soldiers standing at attention. The air smelt like fall in Virginia, and the sound of polished boots clicking on marble mixed with the faint rustle of leaves. 21 steps, a break, then a turn that is just right. Another break, this time for 21 seconds of quiet. After that, 21 more steps. As the light faded, Tomb Sentinel Sergeant Marcus Hale walked with mechanical precision, his M14 rifle resting on his shoulder and the bayonet shining. His uniform was flawless, with every crease sharp enough to cut glass. His face was a mask of discipline that was hard to decipher. This was the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, a famous memorial to troops who perished in battle. Guards have been watching over it since 1937. It was a big deal for the tourists who had gathered outside the velvet ropes. Marcus thought it was harder than carrying a weapon. Alex Chen strolled through the crowd with his championship kung fu belt over one shoulder, catching the light like a badge of honor. Alex was 32 years old and grew up in San Francisco's Chinatown, where his parents were Chinese immigrants, now a famous martial artist with 5 national titles and 2 gold medals from the Olympics. His black track outfit, which had the Chen's Dragon Gate Academy dragon logo on it, fit his athletic body flawlessly. His 4-man entourage, all dressed the same, seemed very sure of themselves behind him. Mike, the cameraman, raised a sleek camera to get ready to make footage for Alex's 1.2 million YouTube admirers. Jake, Tony, and Chris were all black belts and very good students. Alex seemed even more powerful with them around. Tourists moved out of the way without even thinking about it as he approached closer. Some people knew him from viral fight videos, while others were just drawn to the way he carried himself. Alex stopped a few steps from the velvet line, put his hands on his hips, and gazed at Marcus like a fighter would look at an opponent. Families, veterans, and school kids on a field trip watched with fascination, expecting something to happen. Alex's voice disturbed the quiet. It was loud, sure, and very California cool. He pointed at Marcus, who was still strolling with his eyes on the ground, and said, "Okay everyone, come here. You're about to learn some real martial arts. Look at this guy standing still with a rifle weighing him down. He can't move. This is ceremonial stuff, not combat readiness. In my dojo we teach movement, power, flow, and real fighting skills." He smirked and shook his head. "This is just for show." The people moved. A mom from Ohio approached her kids closer and whispered to them about respect. An older man wearing a Vietnam veteran cap frowned and crossed his arms. A few adolescents nodded and took out their phones to take pictures. Alex's pals cheered him on and grinned. "Show him, Alex," Jake roared, and his voice broke through the noise. "Show me your kung fu stance." Alex dropped into a perfect horse stance, with his knees bowed and arms curled up like springs. His body gave forth a controlled force. He said, "This is how a fighter stands," so that everyone in the rear of the room could hear. It was balanced and could attack or defend from any direction. It wasn't trapped in place like a piece of art in a museum. Marcus kept moving, and his steps were perfectly in sync with each other. Click, click, click. His face stayed still. His eyes kept the same, but the air around him seemed like it was getting tighter, like a spring that was being pushed down. Alex glided around the rope in a fluid, almost dramatic fashion. He kicked high and stopped just short of the air. The spectators gasped at how precise the move was. "See that? That's kung fu based on hundreds of years of Chinese tradition and perfected in the ring. I've beaten world champions in less than a minute. This guy," he pointed at Marcus again, "is trained to march, not fight. Big difference." A woman's voice, firm but warm like a schoolteacher who had seen it all, broke through the tension. "Young man, I think you should rethink your plan. The tomb guards aren't what you think they are." Colonel Rebecca Ford stepped forward, her silver hair tucked under a volunteer GU's cap. Even in civilian clothes, her posture screamed military. She was 65 years old, a veteran Marine, and one of the first women to work as a tomb sentinel many years ago. She looked at Alex with the calm authority of someone who has seen worse than a cocky martial artist. "They're soldiers on active duty," she said in a calm voice. "They've been in battle and trained for it. That stillness you're making fun of is discipline, not weakness." Alex smiled and didn't let it bother him. "I've fought in full contact matches on 3 continents, ma'am. I run 5 dojos, train NFL stars, and have even worked with some actors you might know." He touched the gold medal he received in Shanghai last month. "I know how to fight," he said, pointing at Marcus, who had stopped marching at the end. "This is parade stuff. No offense, but it's not the same level as what I do." The crowd was becoming bigger because they were interested in the presentation. A dad with a Patriots jersey said to his son, "This guy is going to regret this." A bunch of college students chuckled, and one said, "Dude's got guts, I'll give him that." Mike stepped in with a camcorder and filmed everything. He told Jake, "Content gold." Alex talked louder, like a ringside announcer, to capture the crowd's attention. "Okay, let's break it down. In Kung Fu, your stance is your base. Your weight is evenly distributed, your knees are bent, and your hands are ready." He exhibited a series of forms, including the cat stance, crane, and kick, with each one flowing into the next. An exhibition of athletic prowess that has been worked on for 20 years. "Now look at our friend here," he continued, waving Marcus away. "Feet together, hands tied up with that rifle, center of gravity all wrong. In a real fight he'd be done in seconds." Colonel Ford's eyebrows narrowed, but she kept her voice calm. "Son, you're on sacred ground. The tomb honors soldiers, both men and women, who gave everything and didn't come home. These guards aren't just standing there, they're trained to protect this place and what it stands for." Alex didn't care and shrugged. "I get what you mean, ma'am, respect for the dead, but from a combat point of view, this stance is a liability." He turned to the crowd and raised his voice. "In my world, stillness means defeat, movement means survival. Let me show you." He moved closer to the rope, ignoring a security guard who had gone to the edge of the crowd and was talking on the radio. Alex began another set, a flurry of punches and kicks that all stopped just short of hitting fake targets. The gathering was suddenly spellbound. Some cheered while others shifted nervously. A child in a Spider-Man shirt tugged on his mom's sleeve. "Is he going to fight the guard?" The mom ordered him to remain quiet, but she kept an eye on what was going on. Colonel Ford got closer, and her voice sounded sharper. "Mr. Chen, you're going too far. The tomb guard is a soldier, not a punching bag for your demonstration." Alex raised his hands in a mock surrender, but he kept smiling. "Don't worry, ma'am. I'm just teaching people. No one is getting hurt." He turned to Mike. "Keep rolling. This is going viral." Then he added to the group, "Let's talk about structural integrity. A good stance holds up under pressure. A bad one." He looked at Marcus, who had just finished another round with his rifle steady. "It falls apart." The short security guy with a crew cut stepped forward. "Sir, you need to step back. Don't get too close to the sentinel," Alex replied, waving him off and getting furious. "I'm almost done here, just showing the folks what real combat readiness looks like." He got into a fighting posture and stared at Marcus's chest, figuring out angles like he was back in the ring. "In Kung Fu, we protect our weak points, chest, solar plexus, knees." He illustrated how to block by snapping his arms into place. "This guy is wide open, he can't move and doesn't have a guard. It's like he's asking to get hit." A murmur went through the crowd. A Vietnam War veteran shook his head and observed, "This kid's digging his own grave." A teenage girl said to her friend, "He's kind of full of himself, huh?" But Alex loved the attention. He began to gently and carefully stretch, like a warrior getting ready for a fight. He turned his shoulders and relaxed his wrists. "Let's step it up a notch," he cried, as his voice boomed in the empty square. "Now that I've shown you the theory, let's see how it works in practice. In competition, we call this pressure testing, which means pushing a stance to its breaking point." Colonel Ford's voice was sharp and commanding. "Don't do it, son. You're wrong." For a brief while, Alex hesitated, and his eyes expressed hesitation. Then his champion's ego came back. "It's under control, ma'am. I know what I'm doing." He looked at Marcus, who was standing still and facing straight ahead, as if he were quite disciplined. "Not to be rude, man," Alex said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "but this is why sports martial arts is better than ceremonial training every time." He stepped into his stance, with his weight evenly distributed and his hands poised to strike like a snake. "Pay close attention, ladies and gentlemen. This is the difference between show and substance." The crowd held its breath as the air got thicker. Mike even let go of his camera a little, understanding that the line had been passed. Alex moved so rapidly that his body looked like it was made of seasoned accuracy. His hand shot forward in a straight punch aimed toward Marcus's sternum. It was a controlled attack, much like the ones he had used to win competitions, and it was done brilliantly. The crash was loud and piercing, like a thump that echoed around the square. Marcus's suit took the hit, and his body rocked a little, but he didn't move. There was barely a small amount of blood around the corner of his mouth that showed the strike had hit. Alex stepped back, happy, and looked at the crowd. See that? No reaction, no counter. That's what I'm talking about. Ceremony, not combat. His smile faded when Marcus's eyes moved and fixed onto his with the focus of a predator. It happened quickly away and scared me. In the blink of an eye, Marcus turned from being a statue to a weapon. His weapon hit the marble with a loud thud, and before Alex could blink, Marcus's right hand shot forward in a single precise CQC move, fingers slightly bent, and slammed the solar plexus with surgical accuracy. The hit wasn't impressive. It was just really effective. It was supposed to cease, not to work. Alex's air left him in a rapid whoosh, his diaphragm clenched, and his knees gave way. He staggered, his eyes wide with shock, and put his hand on his chest as he struggled for air that wouldn't come. People dropped their phones and gasped in shock as they watched. Marcus pushed forward, his movements smooth yet controlled, and did a perfect leg sweep. Alex landed hard, and his championship belt slid over the marble with a metal clink. "Stay down," Marcus said in a calm, low voice. It was the first thing he said. "Slow down your breathing," Alex said, wheezing and bending over. His face was pallid. The crowd was quiet, and the only noise was his ragged breathing. The other members in the group drew back, their confidence gone, and Mike's camera was left on the ground. Jake moved closer, but he halted when Marcus's cold, unyielding look turned to him. Jake moved back and raised his hands. "Not a problem, man," he said. Colonel Ford hurried to Marcus's side, and her voice disturbed the quiet. "That's enough, everyone. The show is over." She talked to the crowd in a stern but not disrespectful way. That wasn't a show. It was a reminder. These sentinels aren't actors. They're soldiers, elite combat trained to honor our fallen. She pointed to Marcus, who had gotten his rifle back and was standing at parade rest, his face bland even though there was blood on his mouth. This guy traveled to Afghanistan twice and trained with the best in reconnaissance. That hit isn't in any dojo. Its goal is to stop threats, not get points. Alex, still on the ground, coughed a little, and his breathing grew better and better. He asked Marcus, "How? How?" Marcus didn't answer, but Colonel Ford replied, and her voice went a little quieter. "Mr. Chen, you train differently. You fight for trophies, but he fights to stay alive. The tomb guards disciplined those 21 steps. That stillness isn't weakness. It's control, the kind you need when lives are on the line." Security officials came, their radios crackling as they peered about. The lead officer, who had a buzz cut and seemed quite serious, nodded to Marcus. "Situation contained." "Sergeant." "Affirmative," Marcus said in a calm voice, then went back to parade rest. The officer looked at Alex, who was now sitting up and still gripping his chest. "Sir, you're under arrest for attacking a soldier on duty. That's a federal crime, especially here." Alex nodded and winced as the cops helped him get up. He wasn't arrogant anymore. Instead, he felt a mix of pain and growing respect. He looked at Marcus and said softly, "I didn't know. I thought you were just ceremonial." Colonel Ford's eyes softened, but her voice stayed stern. "That's a common mistake. The tomb guard comes from the Old Guard, which is the 3rd Infantry Regiment. These soldiers switch between combat deployments and this duty. Marcus here has been in war zones. You can't imagine that uniform doesn't make him less of a fighter. It makes him more." The crowd murmured, some nodding, and others whispered to their kids about what they had learned. A girl wearing a Georgetown hoodie raised her hand. "Why don't they tell us this in the brochures?" Colonel Ford asked with a smile and a hint of pride in her voice. "We don't advertise it. The tomb speaks for itself, but every sentinel is a volunteer who has been thoroughly checked out for excellent service. Less than 20% pass the training. They memorize pages of history, keep their uniforms perfect, and yes, they train to protect this place, not just with ceremony, but with force if necessary." Alex, who was now more stable, looked at Marcus, who remained at his station with his gaze straight ahead. He said, "That strike, I've never felt anything like it. 15 years in the ring, full contact matches, nothing comes close." Marcus didn't say anything, but Colonel Ford did. "It's not about points, Mr. Chen. It's about precision. One move, one result. That's military training." Alex stopped and looked to Marcus as the security team got ready to take him away. "I'm sorry I misjudged you. Badly." Marcus's eyes flashed to his for a second, and he nodded in a way that was almost imperceptible. "Most people do," he said in a voice that was gentle but clear. Colonel Ford talked to the group one more time while the officers put Alex in a car. "They see the uniform, not the soldier. The tomb of the unknown soldier is more than just a memorial. It's a promise to never forget those who sacrificed everything without asking questions. The Sentinels show that promise. Their discipline and calm aren't just for show, they need them." She pointed to the white headstone that went on. And for us, Alex, who was now in the back of the security car, looked out at the tomb with a look of humility and understanding. He came here to make a statement and show everyone that he was the best in Kung Fu. He had learned more about respect, dedication, and the quiet power of people who serve. As the car drove away, he thought to himself, "I've been fighting for medals. They're fighting for something bigger." The group broke apart, and the tourists went to separate places, although their steps and voices were quieter now. "Those guards are real heroes, not just for the cameras," a father told his son. The boy nodded and latched on to a miniature American flag. Colonel Ford watched them go and then turned to Marcus and nodded in respect. He gave it back and kept walking, taking 21 steps, stopping, turning, and stopping again. Alex was back in San Francisco a month later, standing in front of a full dojo class. He didn't point to the championship belt that was hanging on the wall. Instead, he showed a picture of the tomb on a screen behind him. "I learned something at Arlington," he said, his voice steady but quieter. "Strength isn't just in your fists or your forms, it's in discipline and honoring those who came before us. Starting today, we're starting a new program, free classes for veterans. Fighting for fame isn't what real warriors do, they fight for each other." The students clapped, and Alex felt something alter inside him. This time, he didn't care about the cameras or the likes. He had found a new kind of strength that linked his Chinese heritage to his American heart. And in the quiet of Arlington, a guard marched on, keeping watch over the unknown and holding a reality that Alex would never forget. You don't get power from winning, you get it from doing your duty. So what would you have done if you were Alex? Would you have seen the soldier behind the ceremony, or would you have made the same mistake? This is a story about respect, humility, and the brave people who keep our country safe. If it moved you, tell someone who needs to hear it. Visit Arlington, pay your respects, and never forget what those white stones symbolize. We'll be back with another story about how powerful and graceful Americans are. Until then, keep learning, getting better, and being grateful to those who serve. You could send a super chat to help get more stories like this one if you liked it. Click on the video on the screen now to hear another story that is just as strong and engaging, with bravery, sacrifice, and a choice that will make you question all you thought you knew about duty and justice. Press play on the video.